Alright, so we're going to look at quadratic transformations. So first of all, what does quadratic mean? It means squared, and that's what we're dealing with. X squared or squared there. So we have standard form and vertex form. We're going to be looking at vertex form, the a times x minus h squared plus k. And we'll talk about all that as it comes along. So what is the equation in the blue right now? Well, it's f of x equals 1x squared. And where is the vertex? At the origin. So now we're going to move these different things. Notice now when I move a, the number in front, as it gets bigger, the graph actually gets narrow. And then as it gets smaller, the graph, the parabola, gets wider. So it's the opposite of what you think. Big number, narrow. Smaller number, wider, because it's slope. Bigger slope, more steep. Smaller slope, less steep. And then if it goes negative, it reflects over our x-axis, or reflects horizontally. So if there's a negative in front of it, it flips upside down. If it's a big number, it gets narrow. If it's a smaller number, closer to 0, then it gets wider. So that's what happens when we mess with a. So again, that's what I have here, and it's in the notes. So it gets thinner if a gets bigger. If a gets smaller, between 0 and 1, it gets wider. And if it's negative, it reflects horizontally. Now h, let's look at h. So if we move h and h is bigger, it shifts to the right. But look at the equation. It's x minus 3 squared, x minus 4 squared. And if I move it to the left where h is negative, it actually looks like it's positive. So it's inside the parentheses, it's opposite of what it looks like. So our h tells us our horizontal shift. If it's minus, it's actually to the right. If it's plus, it's actually to the left. Then if we look at k, as k gets bigger, it goes up. As k gets smaller, it goes down. And that's exactly what it looks like in the formula, or the equation. Plus 2 means we went up 2. Minus 1 means it went down 1. So it's what you would think. So what happens as h gets bigger? It shifts right, but it looks negative. If h is negative, it shifts left, and it looks positive. And if h is 0, there's no horizontal movement. K, as k gets bigger, it moves up. As k gets negative, it moves down. If k is 0, no vertical movement. So, what does that mean? A tells us how wide or narrow the parabola is, and if it reflects. H tells us our left or right shift. K tells us our parabola up or down shift. And of course, I'm talking about in this form, f of x, or y, equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Notice the minus h, which is why it's the opposite of what it looks like. So, write the equation for this. We're just plugging in values here. Parabola that translated up 3, so that's our k, so it's plus 3, exactly like you would think. And to the right 4, so it's x minus 4 because it's the opposite. Notice it didn't get wider or narrow, so really there is a number here. It's 1. Write the equation for a parabola that translated down 6, left 2, and it's reflected horizontally. Reflected horizontally means there's a negative in front. It's a negative 1. It didn't get wider or narrow. If it went down 6, it's minus 6 outside. And if it's left 2, it's actually x plus 2 squared, because it's the opposite of inside the parentheses. If we have a vertex of negative 2, 5, and it's twice as narrow, well, negative 2, 5 means we move 2 to the left, so it's x plus 2, it's the opposite. Comma 5 means it went up 5, so it's plus 5. And twice as narrow, well, it's the opposite, so it's a bigger number, it's 2 times that. That's our slope. Now, if we have 3 times as wide, it's 1 over 3. Wide means it's a smaller number. So it's the reciprocal of 3. 3 as a reciprocal is 1 over 3. Vertex is 2, negative 3 means it went 2 to the right, so it's x minus 2 squared. And negative 3 means it went 3 down, so it's just minus 3. Now if we're going the opposite direction here, if you notice, we went over 1 and up 2 to the next point. So it's narrower or thinner than normal by 2 times. So it's 2 out in front. It went to the right 3, so it's x minus 3. It's the opposite. And went up 2, so it's plus 2. Here, it's kind of tough to see, but it did reflect. It's upside down, so it's a negative. It didn't go left or right at all, so x minus h is 0. So we don't need the parentheses there. If you have it, that's fine. And minus 3 means we went down 3. So that's why we get that equation. And that's how we do our transformations.